Imagine not filing a yearly tax return. Imagine not having to pay taxes out of your paycheck. Imagine the upper class being taxed at the same rate as the lower class and the middle class. Now, wouldn't that be something? My name is Carlisha Morrell, and I have done extensive research on the topic that would touch all Americans. I want to tell you about an alternative tax code before Congress that would allow all of the things I mentioned above. Despite the overwhelming common sense information available to Americans, for some reason, Americans still support our current federal tax system. To prove that the Fair Tax Act is a better way to handle our tax situation, I will outline the need, the benefit, and also how it would impact our day-to-day lives. Let's start with outlining the need for something better first. Our current tax code is hard to understand, plus it places a heavier burden on the middle class and the lower class, and has many loopholes that the rich use to not pay taxes at all. In an article by Amy Fontenelle, published in 2015 by Investopedia, rules governing income taxation are incredibly complex and will continue to be unless Congress enacts far-reaching income tax reform. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we understood what we're paying taxes or how we're paying those taxes? The Tax Policy Center posed this question: how does the federal tax system affect low-income households? That's a question that we've all asked ourselves at one time or another. Well, let's answer that question. Due to their tax deductions and rebates, typically lower-income families do not pay federal income tax at all. What they do pay is a payroll tax. According to that same publication, only 11.3% of households in the bottom income quartile will pay federal tax in 2015. In contrast, 59.3% of households in the lowest income quartile will owe payroll taxes. Combined, 60.3% of households in the lowest income quartile will owe federal income or payroll tax. So instead of paying federal taxes, they get taxed by payroll. Next, let's talk about the benefit of utilizing a new taxation code. The solution to changing how we pay taxes in America is the Fair Tax Act that promotes these things. In an article titled "Debating and the Pros and Cons of Flat Tax," USA Today wrote, "A properly implemented flat tax would be neither disruptive nor unfair. We would pay taxes on what we want and not what we need. The Fair Tax Act would afford us the ability to obtain the basic amount of food, shelter, transportation, clothing without paying taxes. However, what we would pay taxes on is the things that we want, such as elaborate cars, elaborate clothes, and things like that." In the same publication, USA Today says the Fair Tax Act we would not pay taxes on investments or savings, which would benefit not only the poor but the rich also. Lastly, how would the new tax laws impact our day-to-day lives? In Section 102 of the Fair Tax Act bill that is before Congress today, it says that we would repeal the current payroll tax system that is in place today. How would you like to decide how and where you spend your money instead of paying payroll tax? Fair tax legislation would remove the Internal Revenue System, which would impact a lot of American lives, says Wikipedia. That part would be uncomfortable for a lot of people because we would completely shut down our Internal Revenue System. We would pay for what we use. In the Fair Tax Act, all people, regardless of nationality, race, religion, or citizenship, would be responsible for paying for what they use. at the register. We would enact taxes at the register for things that we want. In conclusion, today we talked about the need, the benefit, and the impact to our daily lives enacting a new tax bill would do, named the Fair Tax Act. We've learned that our current taxation legislation does not place a larger federal tax burden on the lower income, but it does with the payroll tax. We currently have loopholes in our system that allow the rich to not pay taxes at all, while your middle class is left with that burden. That is what is so interesting about the Fair Tax Act. It would tax everyone at the same rate once you hit a certain threshold. We would only pay taxes on the things we want versus the things we need. In conclusion, no one should be exempt from paying taxes, especially the rich.